Welcome everybody to our webinar creating ebooks with QuarkXPress 9. My name is Matthias Günther and I'm going to lead you through this seminar where we show you how you can create an ebook in the ePub format with QuarkXPress 9. I'm going to show you how you're going to do that from scratch. So if you haven't used QuarkXPress 9 yet, you're still on a previous version like QuarkXPress 8 or 7, you're going to learn how to create the ePub. And also for those of you who are already on QuarkXPress 9 and just want to learn what the new features are in QuarkXPress 9.2, I'm going to show you what has changed. So let's start. Why would you create an ePub, an ebook in an ePub format? ePub is a file format and it's probably the only standard file format for digital publishing. All the other options you have, like PDF, they either don't feel like they are really tailored to the device or give you this native experience of using an iPad or an Android tablet. And it's also a standard, which means that, of course, you could create an app for the iPad, but if you do that, you have some more possibilities, but you can't exchange that to other platforms. So you can't give it to an Android tablet and vice versa. So ePub is ideal if you want to publish for all of the platforms. It gives you a wider reach and it's accepted by all major ebook stores or platforms. There's one exception, which is Amazon. However, there are free converters that allow you to convert from ePub to the Amazon or the Kindle.mobi format. The nice thing about ePub is it can adapt to the device. So unlike PDF, you don't have to always zoom in by pinching and moving the content around. It adapts to the screen even when the screen is really small, like from a smartphone, an iPhone or whatever you're using, because it can adjust the file size, it can adjust the font size, and it can reflow the text so that you will always see the best possible font size for your device or for your personal preference. Also, unlike HTML, it allows rights management, so DRM, so that when you sell your book, you're also protected that it can't be copied. So ePub has a lot of advantages over the other file formats for digital publishing. There's one thing to keep in mind. ePub in its newest version, ePub 3, there is actually the possibility to do more about design. However, ePub has been around for a long time, so a lot of the ePub readers don't support ePub 3 yet, or only fractions of ePub 3, which means ePub is currently in real world pretty limited in design. Imagine it more like a text flow in Microsoft Word. So when you make the window smaller or bigger, the text is dynamically reflowing. So ePub 3, which is HTML5 based, will change that long term. However, we need to see all of the ePub readers support that yet. And once they do, QuarkXPress will also give you the possibility to do more in that respect. Don't see text reflow necessarily as a disadvantage. It's actually something that for your readers is a good thing. So if they enlarge the font size or use your ePub on different devices, the text will always look good and always will reflow and really adjust to the device. So it's a good thing. All right, so we're going to see that in a minute when I show you software how this will look like. So ePub can be tailored to the device much better than a PDF. However, if you want to make use of that device, for example, an iPad, then you should use maybe other methods like a native app that you create with App Studio out of QuarkXPress. Okay, so QuarkXPress 9 adds something that we call the reflow view, and that's where the content for your ePub or for your ebook is in there that we then export in the ePub format. Content can be anything. Typically it will be text. Of course, you can add pictures, you can add video and sound and hyperlinks. The important thing to understand about reflow view is that you need to tell it semantics. So you need to classify what this text is, what component is a headline, a body text or byline or a caption or whatever you have. The The reason for that is that when you look at a layout, a typical print layout, you as a human will understand what a headline is and what a caption is and what maybe the byline is. An ePub reader needs to understand that too. So when they format the text flow, they will make some assumptions about, okay, if it's a headline, I'll make this bigger. If it's a chapter start, maybe I will put that somewhere into the menu bar of the ePub reader, depending on how they implemented that. So they need to understand the grammar of your flow, of your text flow. Since you probably didn't put that into QuarkXPress, it's important that you do that before you export the ePub. And I'm going to show you how you easily can do that by giving components meaning. There's also a way, of course, to do that automatically. So if you already use style sheets consistently, that's a good thing, because then you can actually map a style sheet to a component so that you don't have to do that manually. I'm going to show you different scenarios with QuarkXPress 9.2 and ePub export. You can either start an ePub from scratch. So if you don't have print or you don't plan to do any print with your book, so it's a digital export only. And of course, what you could do is you can take your existing print books, tag them, and export them as ePub. I'm going to show you both things. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to create an ePub from scratch. So for that, I'm going to switch to QuarkXPress. I'm going to go to File, New, Project, and the new thing that we added in version 9.2 is the ability to also create an ePub layout. So beside print for PDF or for printing, web, which is HTML, App Studio, which is content for native apps, and interactive, which is Flash, we now added ePub. When I choose that, you will see that you can choose a size of the ePub. Remember though, this is only for the cover image, so the first page, because the reflow view itself doesn't really have any geometry. It doesn't know how wide your screen is. It's going to adapt to the screen size of the device of the e-reader. So it's important to understand that this is only for the cover image, and the margins are also only for the cover. So I can use a typical iPad size here, or of course I could use any other size. So let's say okay, and you will notice the first difference of an ePub layout to a print layout. You have this split view. The first page that you see here on the left is my cover page. So in here I could import a picture. Let's just do that. I'll do File, Import, and I'm going to go and import maybe the Quark logo. I'm going to adjust that, and to see a better preview, I can go for the full resolution here, make this a bit smaller maybe. So that's a way of designing your cover page. Of course, you're not limited only to pictures. You can use any kind of elements that you use from QuarkXPress. So I can use a text box here. I can put in Quark. I can make that larger if I want, and so on, and style my first page. Upon export, the first page, the cover page here, is going to be made a pixel picture, so a screenshot. So don't worry about fonts or anything. This is going to be a screenshot, so it will look exactly the same way as you designed it here. The content of my ePub is going to be here in that reflow window on the right. So for that, you can see I don't have any text yet. A new palette opened that's called the reflow tagging palette, and in here I see articles and components. Articles are basically a way of organizing your content. So think of it as a chapter. That's up to you how you want to organize that. And components are the individual members then of that article, the text, the picture, video, and stuff like that. So if I start here, maybe I'll just call my first article. I will go here, article name, and I will maybe call that intro. And my first component is going to be my headline. You already see here when I edit property of a component, I can actually give it semantic meaning, and I should. So I'm going to make this a title, say OK, and now I've given it a meaning. So if I have here ePub seminar as my title, you can see there is going to be some formatting. Don't take this formatting as you would in print. It's only to visualize to you, the author, the writer, that this is a headline or something that is not body text. The ePub reader, depending on what you use, will take the semantic information to actually use that for formatting. We're going to see later that we're exporting CSS, which you maybe know from creating web pages, and you can put some typography information in there. However, you can't be sure that the ePub reader is going to value that. So I have my first component, and I want to add another component, my text component here, and this is maybe going to be, let's call this the byline. Say OK, and I have a byline element here, and I'm going to put my name in here, and then I want another component, also a text component, and this is going to be my body, and I'll leave that as body. So here I have now my three components. This is my content, just add some, and this is how I create an ePub from scratch. When I resize this window, you can already see what we mean with reflow view. The text is going to flow depending on the size of the device or of the e-reader, in this case QuarkXPress. So that's something important to keep in mind. So let's go back to PowerPoint. Just a quick recap. So what have we seen? When you start an ePub from scratch, you can use the new ePub option and new project dialog, which you should only use if you don't want to make a print book out of the same content. If you do, I'm going to show you in a minute how you can do that. Then you add a cover by just adding a picture or anything that you've already composed, maybe in Photoshop, and load that in there. Or of course, you can use any of the QuarkXPress design and layout tools to design your cover page and then export that. Type the text into reflow view. Make sure you give it the correct semantics, so you classify what these elements are. Add pictures, video, audio content. That's something we're going to see in a minute. The same like adding a table of content if you want that, and then you export as ePub. And it's that easy to actually create a new ePub with QuarkXPress. Okay, so let's have a look at a bit more richer example that I already prepared. So before I'm going to switch to QuarkXPress, I'm going to show you what we're exporting. These are screenshots from my iPad, iBooks, showing you that ePub. So what we have here is we have two logos in my ePub. I have a lot of text. I have a headshot of a CEO here. I have my executive summary. If I go further, I'm going to see a video component with a typical video element. So I know I need to tab it to actually play the video. When I do that, I get the video playing plus the typical controller you know for videos. And then the last thing I want to add is an audio controller here. So let's have a look how this looks like in QuarkXPress. So let's close my ePub, hide PowerPoint in the background, and I'm going to open my ePub 3 demo file that I've already created. So when you look at this file here, what you see here in this window is going to be my cover page. I used a text box and I used some picture boxes and some EPS down here to actually lay out the cover page. If I want to see the content of my ePub, I need to have a look at the reflow view, and under view, reflow view, or with the shortcut key here, I can actually access the content of my file. So I'm going to rearrange this a bit so you can see both side by side. And what you see here is, you can see I put a lot of text already in there. Okay, so let's spice that up. What somebody has already done is given components names. So that's the second component here. I only have 4 components, and maybe I don't like the component name here. So executive summary, logo, IBM, Quark. This should probably be something else. This should be the investment reporting. So I can easily rename that. What you can also see is that somebody has started to classify the elements within that component. So my headline here is actually classified as title. My executive summary is classified as headline. My body text is classified as body text. So this is good because that means when I export, an ePub reader can pick up that information and make something out of it, probably formatting. Will influence the formatting, how I will see that in my e-reader. So what I want to add now is, before the executive summary, I actually want to add a picture of the CEO like we've just seen in the screenshots. So what I'm going to do is I need to add an element within the same component. That's not possible. So I need to create a new component. For that, I'm going to split up the existing component, so this investment reporting. I'm going to put my mouse cursor here before executive summary, right mouse click, split component, and now you can see I have 2 components out of this one. So altogether I have 5. So what I want to do now is I want to add a picture component just before the executive summary. And in there, I want to have my CEO portrait. And you can see now we added a picture. I have some possibilities here in the reflow tagging palette to actually influence the scale. So I can go down to maybe 90%. However, I don't like that the CEO is showing as a body shot. I want a headshot only. So for that, I'm going to click on the crop button here, and I don't need to go to Pixelmator or Photoshop or whatever you're using to crop pictures. I can do that in QuarkXPress. So I can, for example, just grab my picture. I can resize that. I can also grab my picture box and determine or define the crop that I want to see here. I can make that maybe a bit larger again. So everything that I know from QuarkXPress picture boxes or working with pictures, I can use here. And since this is a picture box, what I can also do is I can maybe specify that I want rounded corners, maybe with a radius of 10 millimeters. And since this is a picture box, I can also give it a frame of 2 or maybe 4 points, so that I actually customize my picture box, how it will look like. When I'm finished, I will close my window here. I will be asked whether I want to apply this, and I'll say apply. And now I've modified my picture and I'm satisfied with the tweaking here. However, what I still want to do is I want to control how this is being exported. So I'm going to edit the properties for this picture, and in here I can either use the global settings that we're going to see later, or I can use custom settings for this image. Maybe because the CEO headshot is very important, I increase the resolution here and I want to use a PNG for exporting, and I'll say okay. Okay, so my picture is added. What's next? The next component that we wanted to add is the video that we've just seen. So I'm going to do that before this social media. Same steps, right mouse click, split component. I have 2 components here, and I'm going to add my video component. Once I do that, I need to attach a video. There's my Quark IBM video. I say okay, and the video component is being added. You can see that up here by seeing this little placeholder for a video. Well, that's not really the place where I wanted to add it, so I need to reorder that. I forgot that I should have clicked on a different component before adding it. Doesn't matter. It's very easily reordered by either using the little buttons down here, up here, or by just selecting the component and dragging it to the place where I want that. And I wanted it before the social media, so I can just move that up here by using the mouse. Okay, so once I put this in place, when I export this, a typical video control to play a video will show. I don't like this so much because it's not visual enough. So what I want to have is I want to add a poster frame. To do that, I can just right mouse click my video component, choose import, and then choose any picture, so poster frame here, to show a more visual approach to videos. I don't like how it looks like right now, so I'm going to use the same method I used for pictures before. I'm going to crop it. Let's have a look how this looks like. Where's my picture? So there's my picture. I'm going to use a picture box again to crop this guy. So maybe like this. I'm going to close it. I'm going to apply it, and now I'm done. Okay, so I added my video component here, and what I still want to do is now I want to add an audio component. So to add an audio component, same step, put the mouse where you want to split the component, the existing one, choose split component. So it's split here. I'm going to add a new audio component. Same way like the video, I'm just going to choose an MP3. In this case, I say OK. And here is my audio component added. I could now also add a picture if I think that looks better. I'm not going to do that here because I think this is fine for now. The only other thing I want to do is at the very bottom here of my little ebook, I want to also add hyperlinks. So I have the Quark URL here, right mouse click, hyperlink, new, and I'm going to put in a URL, ideally without spelling mistakes. Say OK, and then I also have the hyperlink in here, which of course upon export is going to be a live hyperlink. Okay, so I'm almost done. Only thing I might want to do is I will go into my cover page here, go layout, ebook metadata. So if I publish this, I should actually have correct meta information here. I can easily add that here. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to create a table of content. So for that, what I can do is I can choose which of my elements that I have in my reflow tagging should actually be listed. And I have two ways of doing table of contents. The one I'm going to choose here is a hierarchical table of content, so I can choose the tags that I have here, and we used title, so I can put maybe title on level 1 or title on level 2. So whatever you decide you can put in here, say OK, and you can see that now my titles are showing up if I classified all of them correctly. Okay, so I'm done with this. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to export my ePub as I'm finished to publish. It's not really difficult. It's only a few steps that you need to do in QuarkXPress. So if I had already prepared a style, I could just choose that because ePub export does link into the output style feature of QuarkXPress. If I haven't done that yet, I'll just go into options. I can decide what resolution all of the pictures by default should get when I export. Remember the one we have tagged individually with 144 dpi. That's not going to be exported with the default setting unless I choose the override box setting. In this case, I'm fine with JPEG and I want maybe the highest quality. Table of content I'm going to take from the ePub table of content, and then East Asian. Don't have any East Asian features in here. If I had used East Asian features, this would also be respected, and that's how I set this. So then I can create a new ePub output style and reuse that every time I export. Okay, so I'm done, and now I'm going to export this ePub. Okay, so let's have a look how this ePub looks like. For that, I'm going to switch to my Finder. Here's my ePub. I'm going to double click it. And in my case, per default, Firefox opens. Why is that? Well, I specified a Firefox plugin that I downloaded as my default ePub reader. I like it, it's small, it is cross-platform, and of course you could use any other ePub reader. I'm going to talk about ePub readers at the end of this session. So what you see here is, here's our ePub. I have the first page as a screenshot. So though I used fonts here, this is a screenshot, pixel-based picture. I have my table of content that I can use to actually jump to elements here. Of course, the ePub reader also allows me to hide that if I don't want to see that. I have my picture in here with the custom picture frame. I have my executive summary. I have my video here, and you will note that I don't have video control here because this ePub reader doesn't support videos or audio yet. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. Not every ePub reader will give you all of the features, especially now with ePub 3 being out and video and audio is a ePub 3 feature. So it might actually look different. So it's an important thing to use poster frames here. And when we put this on iBooks on an iPad, of course, I'm going to see the video. The same thing for the sound here. It's not going to be supported in this ePub reader. And there's my hyperlink that I can use to actually go to the web page. Okay, so that's how my ePub looks like. What if I want to change my ePub? So I want to maybe add some elements or exchange the CSS that we used. For that, I use a different ePub reader, Calibre. So this is Calibre here, and I'm going to import my ePub into Calibre. Just drag and drop in here. You can see that Calibre is adding it. And of course I can use Calibre for reading the ePub by just double clicking it. And you can see same thing here. Actually, Calibre is going to tell me that video is not supported. So you can see it does recognize it. It just knows it can't play that. I'm not using Calibre to view it. I'm using Calibre for two things. The first thing is if I want to publish to Kindle, so to Amazon's format Mobi, then I can use Calibre to convert a book. So I can just say convert, input format is ePub, output format is Mobi, and I say okay, and then this is going to be converted. Sorry, of course, Mobi. Okay, and then we convert that. The other thing what we can do with Calibre is we can tweak the book. An ePub is basically a zip file. So if you rename that to .zip, you are actually going to see that it's nothing more than a zip file. Well, I'm using Calibre because there is some things that are not compressed in this ePub file, so it's a bit a special zip file. And for that, I'm going to use Calibre because to package that again, I need an application that understands this format. So I'm going to tweak my book here, explode ePub, and then you can see that this is really XML, HTML, and images. And now, for example, I could exchange the style CSS. Have a look in the application folder of QuarkXPress. We do ship some sample CSS that you could use to exchange the style CSS to see how this will look different when you exchange the CSS. Of course, always taking into consideration that the ePub reader that you're using will support CSS. When I'm finished, I can rebuild my ePub, and then I'm done. So the last thing I want to show you is how you actually can tweak an existing print layout and create an ePub out of that. The steps that we need to do here is, well, I'll open my print layout. If I use style sheets consistently, it's going to be easy because I don't need to manually tag my components with semantic. I can say, well, the title style sheet should translate into a title tag. So there I can actually automate the mapping process. If I haven't done that, I need to add components manually, or also because the order of the components is important in an ePub. if I don't have very few boxes on my pages, it's best practice to actually add the components manually so that you don't need to reorder later. Of course, you could do that automatically. Have a look how that works with your layout. Maybe that's the quicker way. I found that adding components manually is typically the faster way to do that. Then optionally, I add pictures, video, audio, content, hyperlinks, whatever I want to have in there. I create my table of content that I can create automatically out of the components if I want to, and then I export this as ePub. So how does it look in QuarkXPress? So let's close this ePub and let's open another one. I'm going to open another file that I have prepared. It's going to be the Palm cookbook here. This is basically a cookbook. So I have a first page here with pictures, with text boxes and so on. I have my table of content here that I don't need in my ePub. And then I have some intro text. I have some chapter starts, and I have all of my recipes here. And you can see that my recipes use a consistent style sheet method. So I have bhead for the recipe name. For the serving size, I actually have serving size as a style sheet. And then I have BC first paragraph or body copy for the actual recipe. And let's bring up my reflow view that I've already created. Let's bring that here to the side. And you can see I've already added some elements in here. However, if I go to the same place here, my Willie's Pinky, then you can see that somebody hasn't classified the elements correctly. So we need to still do that. To do that, it's actually quite easy. I'll just go into my layout here. I'm going to bring up the reflow tagging palette. And now I'm going to create a mapping rule. In that reflow tagging palette, instead of mapping this manually, I'm just going to edit my reflow tagging. And I remember it was my bhead, and I don't want to have body in here. I actually want to have title in here. And my serving size should translate into title 2. And then my body copy should be body, and also this BC first paragraph should be body, and other things like the folio or the footers I don't want to extract, so I don't need to delete them later on. So ideally I would set up all of these rules. Let's leave that for now. I'm just going to say okay. It hasn't updated yet because there is not an automatic synchronization. I have to manually push that in case I want to change something in my ePub by deleting extra spaces or tabs or something. I don't want automatic synchronization, but I can always use the context menu and say update this component. So replace content in reflow view. And when I do that, you can see that already the formatting has changed here, which visualizes me that there is a different tagging. And if I go in here now, you can see the recipe name is title, the serving size is title 2, and the rest is all body. So a really nice way and quick way of automatically bringing your print publications into ePub without having to do a lot of manual interaction. And once I'm finished here, what I can do is I say file export as ePub. A quicker way is using the little arrow down here. I'll just click on that, layout as ePub, and I'll do the same thing that I've done before. So my Palm cookbook, I set up my options, and maybe here my table of content I didn't create out of the table of content palette. I will create that automatically also out of the reflow article structure. So I say okay, and I'll export that. Okay, now that it's exported, I'm going to switch back to the Finder. I will double click that, and my Firefox ePub reader opens, and what you can see is I have my cover page, again a screenshot. I have my table of content, which is only the articles that are set up here. So my page 1, my colophon, my forward, and my classics and my appetizers. Right. So we have automatically created the table of content out of this article list. And then when I click on it, page 1, you can see there's page 1, where's my cocktails, here's my cocktails, and then I have all of my text in here. Okay, so that's the way how you can convert existing print layouts easily to an ePub. Let's go back to PowerPoints and just recap the features of the ePub export that we have just seen of creating ePubs. The blue items here are new in QuarkXPress 9.2 for those of you who've already used the feature in QuarkXPress 9 or 9.1. So what it allows you to do is in QuarkXPress you can create these traditional text-based ebooks and publish them to any kind of store, iBooks, Nook, or the Kindle with conversion. You have a new ePub option if you want to start ePubs from scratch, so you don't have to convert print to ePub, but of course you can. Extract the text and the picture content from your layout and sequence that so the text flow is in the right order. You can tag the text, and you should tag the text with semantic structure so that ePub reader can pick that up. You can do that in the reflow view also. You can add video and audio components. You can crop pictures using the same methods that you already know from QuarkXPress, so no need to relearn that. You can, of course, give the pictures a different export setting for the resolution or the file format that you want to use. You can create new articles in the reflow view, and you can of course split components as we have seen. You can hide the components levels if you want to see labels, if you want to see how your ePub will look like. You can reorder it with your mouse. You can export video and audio using the ePub 3 format, and of course you can create a table of content using 2 different methods and add hyperlinks to your ePub. Of course, when you export, you can use the output styles that you know from QuarkXPress, where you also have global picture export settings, and if you use East Asian text, then you can also export that because there's East Asian integration. Some limitations to talk about maybe. Remember that an ePub is pretty limited in design currently, so don't be disappointed. For your readers, typically it's something good. Formatting will appear different from print. Even if you previewed that in an ePub reader, it might look different in the ePub reader or the device that your readers are using because maybe CSS are not valued. Some design possibilities, think of tables or callouts, might be disabled or dissolved. A table, so 3 rows, 3 columns, 9 cells, will actually end up in 9 different components. So they won't look like a table, they will look like 9 components behind each other. If you want a table in there, why don't you create a picture of the table, or maybe tweak the ePub later and put an HTML table in there. When you tweak ePubs, which you can do, you will feel reminded as if they're HTML, and basically they are HTML5, so that's a good thing, because if you have skills in that, then you can actually tweak the ePub format. I still recommend testing, because that's the important thing to do. Depending on the ePub reader, you might lose some features or not see some features there. Your content will be there, of course. So preview your ePub in an ePub reader, or better on the device. So in my case, if I want to publish for the iPad, for iBooks store, then I actually will look at it in iBooks on my physical iPad. Use Calibre if you want to tweak the ePub or any other sigil or whatever you're using. And for Amazon, you need to convert your ePub to the MOBI format. And again, you could use Calibre to do that. If you want to sell your ePub, you need an ISBN, standard book number. And if you want to sell in the iBook store from Apple, you actually need a US tax ID. That's not a problem for US citizens. For anybody else outside the US, you need to apply for a US tax ID, which in Germany took me 3 to 4 weeks to actually get one. So keep that in mind if you want to publish tomorrow and sell your book, that you need to maybe contact the US tax authorities first. The ePub readers I used here in the demo are the ePub reader in Firefox. It's cross-platform, Mac, Windows, and Linux. and you can find it under the URL I listed here. And for tweaking and converting, I use Calibre, again, cross-platform, and you can find it under the URL here. For final proofing and testing, I used iBooks 2 on iPad and the Kindle app on iPad, as I don't own a Kindle. Probably I should have one if I plan to publish to Kindle. The way to transfer that to a device, for example, to an iPad, you use iTunes and just drag that in there and then sync your iPad and it will show up there. You can test everything I showed you here today using the 30-day test drive that you find on our website. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email or use the chat tool of the webinar software that we're using here, and ask me a question now and I'm going to answer them in the chat tool. Thank you very much for your time and I hope you enjoyed this session. Goodbye.